So as we're now in the final act of Battlefield 6's first season, I think we've all seen enough to sit down and discuss what worked, what didn't, and ultimately how Battlefield has really tried to revolutionize its live service, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. Because as hard as I've been on this game, especially for its endless fumbled patches and bugs, ultimately I feel like the structure of the live service has potential, but currently features terrible content and mistakes where Battlefield Studios can't seem to get out of their own way. While 2042 did just enough to not get sued after promising a live service within its marketing, Battlefield 6 at least seems to make an effort to change how content is delivered. But the devs seemingly don't know how to execute, with delivery that's often uneven, far too slow, and hard to follow, with a huge downgrade in the game's creative vision post-release. Between endless new bugs, broken battle pass challenges, unwelcome cosmetics, and hotly debated maps, Battlefield has the infrastructure to deliver a robust live service, but is really having a hard time executing on that potential. But guys, if you like in-depth reviews and discussions on all things Battlefield, drop a like and hit subscribe before we jump into my review of Battlefield 6 Season 1. Now, in a lot of ways, what Battlefield promised with this new service wasn't anything radically different than what we've seen in the industry for years, but it certainly felt like a step forward because of how lethargic the franchise's service has been in the past. On paper, it promised a battle pass, new weapons, free maps, limited time events, and challenges to keep things moving. However, while the content itself is often debatable, the way that DICE and company have laid out the delivery of said content has been pretty refreshing compared to prior titles, but again with uneven pacing and an uncertain vision for the future as we head into 2026. Now, while it's certainly not perfect, in general I'd say they've done a pretty solid job of breaking their larger Season 1 model into more manageable chunks between Rogue Ops, California Resistance, and Winter Offensive, each containing their own new content, whether that be a new map, weapons, or events. And it's done a better job of keeping the game feeling alive, which is a lot more than you could say for something like 2042. But while these more incremental updates have been a breath of fresh air, the game's roadmap has seemed to have suffered, with still no mention of Season 2, no confirmed end date for Season 1, or clarification around massive concerns like AI-generated paid cosmetics and stolen artwork from Call of Duty. While the vanilla release gained massive hype and player engagement because of the potential it showed, Season 1 really derailed much of the hype the game had behind it. Because while the base game had its problems, it represented a great vision for things to come after years of pain with 2042. However, Season 1, while initially exciting, ended up showing that EA and Battlefield Studios still don't totally understand their fans and are trying to make a shooter that will appeal to fans of other games, instead of forging their own identity, while they also still appear incompetent as they use generative AI for paid cosmetics and often break core mechanics like the defibs. To make things worse, both new maps, Blackwell Fields and Eastwood, have been brutally shit on by the fans and are often referred to as a step backward from the base game's maps, which were already questionable themselves. And Blackwell with its open fields and Eastwood with its bad game flow are only made worse by core issues that the devs continue to postpone fixing, like player visibility, vehicle balance, and arguably still the audio engine. From my point of view, and something I spoke about at length in my recent rant about RedSec, is that while the content offerings may be weaker than they should have been, the real tragedy with the current state of this game is that the entire experience is being made worse by bad core mechanics and bugs. Horrible design choices like the return of the sweet spot mechanic, SMG balance, and muddy game audio are only made worse by questionable hit reg, netcode instability. All things DICE has publicly come out and tried to address or put back into testing. Add in all these overlapping variables and the gameplay experience has been going downhill, with many fans still believing the open beta was the best this game has ever felt. And I really believe the degrading experience has been at the center of why casual fans have been moving on, especially with how mediocre RedSec has become, but there also hasn't been enough to keep hardcore players invested either. First things first, while the Battle Pass system is fine, kinda just a normal Battle Pass broken into tiers, the content it offers is hilariously bad, and the weeks of broken challenges didn't help players' first impression of it either. Much less so with the most recent mini Winter Offensive and Holiday events that both saw their challenges need to be fixed mid-event. The challenges themselves, like plenty else in the game, seem to have not been quality controlled. Meanwhile, what the Battle Pass offers isn't really worth getting excited over either, especially when it's a straight-up reskin of Call of Duty Ghosts, something that shows either the devs are rushing to make generic slop or have no understanding or fandom of the industry they're a part of. Whether it be in the paid store, paid Battle Pass, or seasonal events, the current progression and reward situation, especially for hardcore fans, is a huge letdown with cosmetics that look like teenagers going paintballing, not tier 1 operators or grunts, and simply adding in cosmetics from prior fan-favorite titles would probably sell like crazy. I'd also like to see more emphasis put on the endurance challenges as well, as they represent the kinda long-term grind that hardcore fans are looking for, but at the same time, winning 100 gauntlet matches and 30 Battle Royale matches is worth way more than a fucking sticker. Take a page out of Halo 3 where armor sets like Hayabusa and the Recon helmet really represented something, and start creating challenges around rewards like that. Utilize modes like Strike Point for competitive challenges, and core modes like Conquest for long-term grinding based on revives, captures, and kills. All of which feels really simple in my mind, as Respawn Entertainment already does way more for Apex Legends. The sad reality of Battlefield 6's live service is that it's really trying to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to offer overpriced AI-generated cosmetics in the paid store while offering you stickers and keychains in the Battle Pass. It wants to revolve itself around a Battle Royale that invites in new players while then presenting them with a frustrating and often broken gameplay loop. And it wants to drain hardcore fans' pockets while giving them no reason to play in the first place, with lacking progression, increasingly mediocre content, and ultimately a series of actions that make hardcore fans lose faith in the product like they've done in the past. The fact is, Battlefield 6 isn't dead. In fact, it's pretty far from that. But when 80% of your player base checks out immediately after the start of your service, something's wrong. Perhaps it's the AI-generated slop, the worsening map design, broken desync, or maybe DICE will ignore everything as they accept awards for a game that really needs to get its act together for Season 2, as they target 100 million players and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on development across 4 entire studios. Season 2 needs to hit and become more inviting for casual fans, while also regaining the trust of hardcores, because after a few months with their latest attempt at a live service and a little news on the horizon, fans are left with more questions than answers. But guys, drop those comments below and let me know what you want to see out of Season 2. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.